Hello and welcome to our Business Roots chat. I'm here with Ian McLeish, the director of Rosslyn Associates. Hi Ian, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good. So tell us about Rosslyn Associates. Who are they? What do they do?
Right, what do? Nowadays, what we do mostly is work with trades clients, those that want to grow their business profitably and sustainably. We also do tax planning, mostly for property taxes, and we also do the usual stuff that accountants do, end of year accounts, tax returns, stuff like that.
And when you say trades clients, you mean plumbers, builders?
Builders, renewables, electricians, central heating engineers, that sort of thing.
And what made you focus on that particularly?
It was probably a bit of a coincidence with the number of clients that we came in and we started working with them. We realised that there's an awful lot of help that they need.
Right.
And there's a lot of possibilities in the type, because of the business structure, there's an awful lot of variables that can be influenced to make the business much more successful compared to, say, a one-man, let's say a doctor or something like that.
Yeah.
It's quite different. It's like a different sort of business model. And so it really suits us.
All right, interesting. Now, so as you say, you're fundamentally an accountant.
Yeah.
You've found yourself a niche in the market.
Yep.
But what did the young Ian McLeish want? What were you wanted to do as a kid?
No, you might not be surprised to hear. I think accountant was probably one of the last things I wanted to be. I was actually in a punk band at school. And,
A punk band?
yeah, and one of our songs had a what's the word, disrespectful lyric about bankers and accountants. So yeah, it wasn't.
There's
really
probably a bit of rhyming in there, is there?
Yeah, that sort of thing.
Right, I get it.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. So no, what did I want to do? Originally, I suppose the first thing I wanted to do at school was be a civil engineer, to build bridges.
Right. So hold on a minute. we've got Ian. What was the band called?
To protect the innocent, I don't want to mention it.
Okay. I'll just use my imagination, and I'm sure the viewers can use their imagination as well. You've got Ian. What did he play an instrument?
Yeah, guitar. Yeah.
You're a punk guitarist.
I was then, yeah.
Who wants to be a civil engineer.
Yeah.
Who ends up being an accountant.
Yeah.
And did you have the punk haircut? I'm thinking Vivian from the Young Ones type of thing.
Not quite, but yeah, it was sort of short and.
So you weren't extremist?
No.
How many people were in the band? I'm going to concentrate on this a little bit because this is fascinating me. Tell me a little
There
bit
was
about the band.
4 people in the band.
Okay.
And we actually supported the Skids and a few other we were supposed to support the Clash at one point, but that gig got cancelled, unfortunately.
So you were fairly good.
We were all right. We were okay. We were okay for a punk band.
And what do the other band members do now?
I don't know. I'm trying to think. One, I think, is a marine engineer.
Right.
One, I think, became a surveyor. Another one, I have no idea.
So this is a real divergence from you've got these 4 punks, and then fast forward a few years, and we've got a marine engineer, and we've got a surveyor, and we've got an accountant. Did this hurt your punk soul? Was it
No, it was one of these things when you're 16, 17. It's sort of.
Were you a rebel?
A little bit, not much, not really.
Excellent.
Not really.
So why the civil engineer thing then? Where did that
I don't know. I think maybe when I was very young, I liked building things with Lego and stuff. So it was about building things, like bridges and that sort of thing.
And did you study that at university?
I did a year of that, and then I discovered advanced maths and thought, nah, I don't want to do that anymore.
You discovered advanced maths and decided that would be more exciting.
No. I discovered I didn't want to do engineering because you had to do advanced maths.
Oh, I see. Right, I see. I thought you meant you'd suddenly have an epiphany and say, no more engineering for me because this maths thing is out there.
No.
But it was actually the maths that put you off.
Yes.
Again, an unusual thing for an accountant to say.
Accountants nothing to do with maths. Accountancy is to do with arithmetic mostly.
What's the difference?
Well, arithmetic is adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing mostly, and maths is another thing altogether. It's whether you got
algebra
and calculus and integration and all sorts of stuff.
Which is what you need for a civil engineering.
Yes.
Because it's all about angles and
all sorts of stuff. Yeah.
Got you. So you did a year.
Yeah.
You were shocked at the fact that someone was going to ask you to work out angles.
Yeah.
You decided this wasn't for you.
Yeah.
Where next?
Well, I took a year out and worked in an insurance company.
This is getting less and less punk, Ian.
Oh, yeah.
Right, okay.
During which time I did a lot of reading and decided that I wanted to go back to university to study philosophy. Mm-hmm. So I did.
Okay, that's a bit more punk.
A wee bit, yeah. So I did 4 years at philosophy in Dundee, and then I did a year at Warwick University,
Okay, yeah.
postgraduate philosophy, and decided that was enough. I needed some money, living off £2,000 a year grant at the time, where it really wasn't much fun. So I came back up to Edinburgh and worked in a shop for a year.
Okay.
So that wasn't very exciting. But those were the days when if you didn't have any money, the council would pay, or the DSS or whoever it was, would pay for your rent. So a friend and I rented a flat in Great King Street, which was really nice. So that would be akin to that anymore. But
No, I was going to say, a friend of mine's just sold a house in Great King Street. Yeah.
So after that, what did I do after that? Oh yeah, I wanted to go and see a friend in London. So I was looking to a way to get down there, and I noticed that the civil service exams would pay for your travel and accommodation. So I'll go in for that. And I didn't realise it was 2 intense days in Whitehall. I didn't get the job that the thing was for, but I was offered another job in the Inland Revenue.
Okay.
And I was going to get married as well, so I thought, let's move. So I moved down. I worked in the Revenue in Norwich for about 3 or 4 years.
So you're in Norwich, you're working
Yeah.
for the Inland Revenue. Okay.
Yeah, my first daughter was born, and we decided we want to move back up to Edinburgh. So, well, actually, before we moved, I left the Revenue and joined an accountancy firm as a tax person.
Right.
And then moved back up to Edinburgh, got a job in another accountancy firm, studied for the Chartered Tax exams and passed them, spent most of the 90s working for other firms as a tax expert specialist.
What kind of age are you here? Are you in your mid-20s probably?
No, 30 to 40 was the 90s.
Right, okay.
Yeah. And in 2002, I decided that I could do this myself. So I set up Rosslyn Associates. But a lot's changed since we started. Can you imagine? There was work from home. Funnily enough, we were trying to do a lot of the advisory type work, helping businesses grow profitably, etc., way back then, but the technology, etc., wasn't really in place. So I ended up reverting back to doing accounts and tax returns and stuff like that just to pay the bills, and did that for a few years. Not very exciting.
No, but it's the route, isn't it?
It's
That's
the route, yeah. Well, one thing that did happen was in 2003, I think it was, I started studying counselling and psychotherapy.
Okay.
And did a year's certificate in Gestalt psychotherapy, and then I did a 2-year diploma in person-centred therapy, and then I had a private practice for about 5 or 6 years.
A psychotherapy practice?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, running in parallel with my day job, as it were.
So you're still doing the accountancy?
Yeah.
And at this stage, were you focusing on the trades, or would you basically take anybody?
No, it was still anybody.
Standard early start business is if a client comes through the door, you don't need the...
Yeah. I don't want to paint your house. Yeah, as long as you
Yeah,
pay me
I'll
enough,
do what it'd be like,
I'll do it. Yeah, we're sort of at that stage. And then a friend of mine got in touch and said that the firm he was with needed a tax person, and it was just the timing was right at the time because I needed another member of staff, needed a bigger office. So the overheads were going to go up quite a bit. And I thought, well, if they've got capacity, it means I don't have to do any of that. So it took a few months, but eventually agreed to go along with that. Mm-hmm. But I was there for about 6 years, 6.5 years, something like that. And then, to cut a long story short, there was a major fallout in the partnership, and I ended
Which
up...
happens.
Which happens, yeah. And not pleasant to go through, but, it's in the past now. So it was a case of relaunch Rosslyn Associates, because we'd sort of merged in and sort of demerged again in 2014, about 9 years ago. Mm-hmm. And that's when things really started to take off. Probably the last 5 or 6 years, we started to look more at what we could do. So we're actually a smaller team now. We were about 8 at one point, but now down to 4, possibly 5. But we've got the right team. We know who our clients are. We know what we can do for them. So it's it feels like it's taken 20 years to get to this point.
But it's 20 years of learning.
Absolutely, and that's where the learning sort of idea comes from.
That's the important bit.
Yeah.
What is it about Rosslyn Associates then that you think the trades like? What is it your average joiner or builder or brickie or plumber or whatever? What do they like about you?
What I think they like is we fill the gap in their knowledge and skill, I suppose. And an awful lot of guys will start their trades business basically just almost just like hard work.
Yeah.
No, they can do it. They're on the tools. They're doing all the work. They're spending their evenings trying to sort out the finances. Or they've got a partner who helps them with that, and that gets them up to, I don't know, typically maybe 300,000-500,000 turnover. Not making a huge profit on that usually, which is why one of the reasons why you see so many builders and trades actually going bust, because you just, it's a small error and you've gone, especially with material prices moving up and down.
And they're always owed money as well, because they've got to buy it from here and then they've got to sell it to the person whose house they're building or whatever. There might be an intermediary, so there's a lot of little steps in the way, isn't there?
And a lot of them haven't niched at all, so they're just kind of all things to everybody, so which means that when they're trying to compete, the only thing they've got to compete on is price. So they discount. And they realise that they'd have to do like 20 million to get enough profit to cover their overheads and make it leave us some profit behind. So, and that's happened. I mean, I've gone into trades companies and seen that they've turned over 900,000 and they've made £5.50 of profit for the year, and that's before any drawings. So the business owner is putting money in to keep it going. But it doesn't take much to then say, right, okay, basically we work out how much profit they need to make and then work backwards to how much turnover. And the main thing is pricing and gross profit rate. That is definitely the main thing. And when they grasp it, because what often if we work with somebody for maybe 12 months, 18 months, they start to realise what they've been doing wrong and to understand how the numbers work in business.
It's a learning process for them as well.
It's an absolute learning process for them. And with the ones we work for longer, they often say to me, they're anticipating what I'm going to say, because we tend to meet monthly and look at the numbers and budgets, etc. And they'll say, I know you're going to say something about our gross profit rate, but that's because we bought some stuff there and it was a bit...
So preempting your challenges.
Yeah, which is great, because ultimately, I suppose, we're not trying to do ourselves out of a job, because
but you want to become kind of almost more transactional. You want to become to the stage where now you've learned. Let's just keep doing what we're doing. And then they'll only kind of get in touch with you if they've got some kind of problem.
Well, the other thing we do is not just the numbers, though. It goes beyond that, because, for instance, if a typical conversation will be, right, you're marking your materials up at 20%. Do you think you're getting a 20% gross profit percent? And they say yes, and well, no, you're not. That's your markup, not your gross profit. It's much lower. Okay, right. Well, so you explain all that to them. And then you say, this is your price you need to charge, this is material cost, this is what you have to charge to make enough profit, because you've only got capacity for so many jobs, etc. And they'll say things like, I couldn't possibly do that. No,
my people won't pay that.
They won't pay it. So then it becomes looking at the limiting beliefs, looking at what the what assumptions they're making about things, and then trying to convince them, if you like, or help them find ways that they can actually distinguish themselves in the marketplace, so that people want them because of who they are, not because of the price. But that takes a different skill from the numbers skill. That's coaching really at the end of the day, and that happens quite a lot, because the reason they're in where they are is because it's run by the founder, and he's got his own beliefs about
the way he's always done it.
It's the way it's always done. So my dad did it, but he used to be, we ran the business, all these things. And now I would say, well, is it getting you the results you want?
And the answer is normally no.
Normally no. So it's like, well, what are you going to do about it? You've said you want to make 100 grand a year profit after tax. And we've worked out that you need to make about 120 in order to have some extra to pay back your loans and things like that. So it's numbers. Again, going back to what I said at the start, it's arithmetic. It's not even maths. It's arithmetic. That less that equals that, less that equals that. And that's it.
And it's unarguable, and that's it.
It's just numbers. So that's what we do. That's why I think the trades... I mean, I actually had a phone call from a client this morning saying he was speaking to someone in the same industry over in the West, and because he'd been asked to give him advice. And he phoned me when he spoke to me this morning. He said, I was on the phone for an hour and a half with him, And all the things he was saying reminded me of me 2 years ago before I started working with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he said, look, you have to speak to Ian. You really need to get in touch because, and he said, I told him that we've doubled and trebled our business and profitably since we started working with you. So,
Which is a great testimonial.
Yeah.
You know, what one builder says, that's another builder. They're going to listen, aren't they? Yeah.
hope so.
The idea of one of your clients remembering what it was like and if they could give themselves that a bit of advice. Now, let me put you into a little position here. Okay. You've walked into a seedy bar in Edinburgh. Okay. And on the stage, there's a punk rock band. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
A young guitarist.
Yeah.
Is there? Did you have a stage name?
No.
You definitely did.
No.
You definitely did. So anyway, so there you are, Spiky McLeish playing the guitar. And in the interval, you go over and you realise that this is you. What advice would you give that person?
That's quite a hard one. I'd say it doesn't really matter what you do as long as you're happy. At the end of the day, I wouldn't say, become an accountant or
Sit down, son. Put your guitar there.
Yeah.
Let me tell you about accountancy.
Yeah.
It's not maths, it's arithmetic.
No, I would say just go with your gut instinct. Do what you feel's right. But probably be a little bit more careful than I was in terms of the decision making.
Okay.
Don't be quite so impulsive. Probably, over the years there's been things. Probably mostly going into that partnership firm. I mean, if I hadn't been concerned about the massive increase in outlays that we're going to be on, then I might have said no. I probably would have said no. And in the end, it probably would have been a better decision. But
it's still a learning
it's
point.
what it is, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
You know now, and that's the great thing about advice, isn't it? Advice comes from adversity normally.
Yes.
Because you've done something. I don't want somebody else to make that mistake.
Yeah.
And where next then for Rosslyn Associates?
We've very recently, in fact, this month, split the business in two. So we've got the Rosslyn Associates, and then we've got Rosslyn Advisory, which is going to deal with all new clients who want what we call the trifecta, which is a business plan, a budget and forecast, and monthly coaching. And we're just going to we're building it up. We're roughly taking on one new client for those services every month.
Excellent.
And that's our target. So we've been doing that for about a year. We're slightly ahead this year because we've had 2 this month already. So I'm not becoming complacent. I mean, a lot of it's to do with our social media and Instagram and stuff like that, which we do ourselves. Ikra, who's one of the team, she does that, and it seems to attract people. It's a little bit quirky, a little bit different, and a lot of trades and construction businesses are actually on Instagram, so it's because they can see before and after and photos and stuff like that. So we get a lot of followers and interest because of that. To be honest, I think it makes sound arrogant, but I think we've just hit a sweet spot now. After all these years, that we're providing something that is a huge benefit to our ideal clients. And if you do that,
what's not to love?
And tell them about it.
Yeah.
That's all you have to do, really, at the end of the day.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you very much, Ian. That's a fascinating little chat. I can't get the image of you as a punk rocker out of my mind, and I think that'll stay with me for quite some time. So yes, thank you very much for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. Yeah, thank you.
Good. And thank you to everybody else out there for joining us today on this Business Roots chat. If you are a trades person in construction industry and you need a new accountant, give Ian a shout. I'm sure he'll be really pleased to hear from you. And remember, there are more chats on your usual podcast platform where we talk to people through their business routes. Thank you very much for joining us. See you all soon.